Hey guys, the Military Arms Channel is getting ready to go to political. We are about to lose our gun rights. It looks harmless, it looks innocuous, heck, to some it even looks like reasonable gun control. But what was proposed just a few hours ago is a bill that was proposed by a Republican out of Florida. His name is Curbelo. Mr. Turncoat Curbelo introduced bipartisan legislation that has the support of 9 other turncoats, which I'm going to put their names right over here, which you need to blow up their phone lines, their inboxes, and everything else tomorrow morning and let them know that what they're about to do will end the Second Amendment in the United States as we know it. Now, Mr. Curbelo isn't acting alone. I said it's bipartisan. Mr. Curbelo is working with a Democrat by the name of Moulton. They've come together to propose a 3-page bill that will ban rate-increasing devices. Now, this is an open-ended bill, and this bill will ban the possession of. It's illegal to be in possession of it, folks. There's no grandfather clause. If you own them, tough luck. We're not paying you your money back. Turn them in, destroy them, whatever, because if you're caught with it, you face up to 5 years in prison. That translates into a felony, okay? So now you can't possess, you can't manufacture, and you can't transfer, transport, or anything else a device that is identified as a rate-increasing device. It doesn't name bump fire stocks. It doesn't name anything. It just says a rate-increasing device. Now, this could be a Geisley 3-gun trigger. This could be anything because it's not defined in the bill, just a rate-increasing device. Owning one of those, 5 years in prison. Owning a part of one of those, 5 years in prison. Do you guys remember this thing called a bump stick? Do you remember when people used to do that? Stick a stick in the trigger guard? That is a device or a part of a device, and that piece of wood will put you in prison for 5 years. But they're going to reevaluate that, right? So they're going to take a look at the sentencing guidelines as proposed in this bill to see if maybe not you deserve 10 years in prison like an NFA violation. Because there's some other turncoats out there. There's a Democrat, surprise, surprise, named Titus, who is working hand in hand with Fitzpatrick from PA, and they're working on their own bill. And this one does make it a 10-year penalty to be caught in possession of, using, manufacturing, transferring, whatever, a device that increases the rate of fire. Here's the problem, folks. They don't define anything in this legislation because they can't that defines increased rate of fire. What is increased rate of fire? Well, first of all, what's the standard rate of fire for a semi-automatic? Anybody? Exactly. There is no standard rate of fire for a semi-automatic. So when you put this nebulous law out there, much like the Gun Control Act of 1968 and the Sporting Purpose Clause, which the BATF has beat us up endlessly over, saying you can't import this handgun because it's too small and too light to meet sporting purposes. No act of Congress, nothing. ATF just arbitrarily gets to decide that, that's not sporting. AK barrels. Well, if they were ever used on a machine gun, you can't have them because we all know that machine gun barrels really make machine guns. Not. Arbitrary decision by the ATF because it's an open-ended law just like this one. This one, folks, will be used to strip us over time, if not immediately, of semi-automatics as a whole because our rate-increasing device, folks, is given to us at birth. Bump fire is nothing new, and it didn't require a stock 20 years ago because I was a kid growing up in Kansas, bump firing all sorts of stuff. I can bump fire from the shoulder, I can bump fire from the hip, I can bump fire anything. So here's my rate-increasing device. Are they going to serialize it? Are they going to chop it off? What is their definition? It's not in there. It's open-ended, and that means the BATF gets to decide. So perhaps, and I'm speculating here, maybe the BATF decides that, well, to be a rate-increasing trigger, it has to have a trigger pull of, let's say, 10 pounds. It has to have a full trigger travel of, let's say, 12 centimeters. And it has to have a reset of 8 centimeters. We're just going to make numbers up because there is no standard. And there's nothing defined in the bill. What this bill is a direct attack on self-loading rifles, modern carbines, your AR-15, your AK, your deer rifle. It doesn't need a pistol grip or a bayonet lug or a flippy thing that goes up. All it has to do is load itself, folks. And now you're in possession of a weapon that can be rate increased by just about anything you do. Okay? If your neighbors call the police on you because they hear in the woods, and you're down there bump firing your AK like you always have, and you don't own a rate-increasing device other than a belt loop on your pants, that's a device, folks. And now you're subject to 5, maybe even 10 years in prison. The traitors are listed over here. You need to contact them immediately, guys. It's only going to get worse. This is just the first volley. They're not going to stop with bump fire stocks. They're going to go after everything. Dianne Feinstein, in her infinite wisdom, is working to propose a new assault weapons ban, much like she did in 1994 with Bill Clinton. Now, she went on the news and she was asked if she thought that additional laws or regulations would have stopped the tragedy in Las Vegas. And what did she say? Well, let's take a look at that.
Give me the slate of laws that if you could wave your wand and have enacted that could have prevented Vegas.
Well, I don't know. I would have to take a good look at that and really study it. I'm not sure there is any set of laws that could have prevented it. I'm not sure there is any set of laws that could have prevented it.
So even she admits that additional laws wouldn't have changed anything, nothing. And she's absolutely right for once in her miserable life. But maybe she made a mistake. Maybe she misspoke. We all do it. I do it all the time. Let's take a look at another clip from another news show that she went on and see what she has to say about additional laws perhaps preventing such tragedies in the future.
Could there have been any law passed that would have stopped him?
No, he passed background checks registering for handguns and other weapons on multiple occasions.
Holy smokes, folks. It wasn't a misspoken word. She didn't speak out of turn or screw up in her freaking addled mind. No, she doesn't even believe these laws will change anything. You know why? Because let's take a look at this clip. No matter what they say, the anti-gunners, whatever their justification, no matter how reasonable they think these laws are, this is what they really want.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein worked for more than a year to get the assault weapons bill passed in the face of ferocious opposition from the National Rifle Association. She says she got the best she could.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
Right there from the horse's mouth, folks. They want to round them up. Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them in. All I need is 51 votes in the Senate. That's their end game, people. You're being complacent. You think, oh, I'll just give up bump fire stocks because that's all they want. Go read this bill. That's not what they're talking about. They don't even name bump fire stocks. They're talking about this fictitious rate increaser. The rate increaser, people, is the gun that loads itself. It fires only as fast as you can pull the trigger. It doesn't need a bump stock. It doesn't need assistance.
The main step to bump firing, first what you want to do is put your thumb through the trigger guard and then you hook that on your belt loop, like so. Lots of forward pressure. And when you pull this forward, the hammer goes down. The recoil will keep the gun going. Rock and roll, here we go.
And if you put a 2-pound Geisley 3-gun trigger, or maybe it's 3 pounds, in your AR-15, guess what? You just increased the rate of fire, folks. Geisley's now out of business. JP Enterprises, that match AR-15 with the bull barrel and the heavy muzzle brake and all that cool stuff. Guys, I'm sorry to tell you, that 3-pound trigger pull increases the rate of fire. Too short of a reset, too short of a trigger pull. It's nebulous. And that's how they're going to get us, guys. They're going to tell us it's just reasonable restrictions. It's all reasonable, people. We just need a little bit of reasonable stuff. But even the people proposing the reasonable restrictions don't believe they'll change anything because they're right. They won't. Not unless they round them all up. And that's what we're facing. Don't be complacent. Don't think Trump is going to save you. Okay? He doesn't talk to the NRA. Mr. Wayne LaPierre said that himself on Face the Nation. Okay? He said Trump isn't talking to him. Trump doesn't care about us. Trump used us, gun owners collectively and the NRA members, to get elected. The only gun owner in their house is Donald Jr., and he's not president. If you think Trump is going to save you, you're wrong. And when you screw that up and you stay home, you don't make the phone calls, you don't organize rallies in front of your state capitals like we did post Sandy Hook, you're going to have nobody to blame but yourself when your AR-15s, your AKs, your granddaddy's deer rifle that loads itself all get banned by a bureaucrat's pen because an open-ended law that seemed reasonable to everybody actually wasn't all that reasonable, and it allows BATF in the future to do whatever they want without a vote of Congress, just like they do with the Gun Control Act of 1968 and the Sporting Purposes Clause. That's how they took away trusts. Didn't take a vote in Congress or the Senate, didn't take a president's signature. All it took was a president saying, ATF, change this. And that's what they did. And that's what this law is going to do too. You allow this to pass thinking that it's going to be reasonable, and you're going to wake up tomorrow and your guns are going to be gone, and you're going to say, how did this happen? Golly gee, man, I don't know how this happened. We elected Trump. We elected Republicans. Well, I got a list of 10 turncoats right over my shoulder, folks. Do something. Act now. Call, email, organize events, and start fighting this. If you don't, you're going to lose your guns, people. We're going to be back to revolvers and muskets if we're lucky. Get active, get going, get calling, post on Facebook, spread this video everywhere else. Talk to other social media folks who I know most of them are making these videos themselves. Get the conversation going. Blow up the forums. It's on us to stop this, just like we stopped the magazine bans and the assault weapon bans that were proposed after Sandy Hook, which even the Democrats that proposed them agree wouldn't have changed anything. All right? It's on us, people. Don't watch this video and smile and say it's never going to happen. That's how we got the 1994 bill. It's going to happen if you sit around and you're complacent. Get active.